You know, it's funny. When you think about Spanish wine, your mind probably jumps to maybe Rioja.
Ribera del Duero?
Sure, the big names. Maybe Albarino on the coast.
Exactly. But here's a real curveball for you. The most planted grape in the whole country is actually a variety most people haven't spent much time thinking about. It's called Airén.
Surprising, isn't it?
Totally surprising. Okay, so let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we dive into a whole bunch of sources and basically pull out the most interesting, the most useful bits of information just for you.
And today, yeah, we're really going beyond those familiar labels. We're going to put the usual suspects aside for a minute.
Right.
We want to explore the variety of grapes and regions across Spain and really try to get a handle on this idea of terroir.
Ah, terroir.
The kind of elusive interplay between the place, the climate, the soil, and how it shapes what's actually in your glass. We've looked at quite a range of stuff history, regional deep dives, winemaking details, even some tasting notes. Yeah, and this terroir thing, it can sound a bit, I don't know, mystical sometimes, right? But one source put it really nicely. It's basically this constant sort of subtle dance between the climate and the soil. It's not just where the vines are, it's the whole environment they grow in. And that has this huge effect on the wine itself. So yeah, get ready, because we're about to dig into some pretty delicious details.
And that, Aaron, in fact, that's actually a perfect place to start. It's often seen as just, a workhorse grape for volume.
That's bulk wine.
But its very existence tells this incredible story of adaptation.
Absolutely. Our sources suggest it's likely autochthonous, meaning it actually originated right there in Spain, probably in Castilla-La Mancha, that huge central region. And just think about the climate there for a sec. It's extreme continental, like scorching hot, dry summers.
Bone dry.
Bitterly cold winters, and these massive temperature swings from day to night. How does any grape manage that, let alone become the most planted?
Well, that's what's so fascinating. Airén seems to have evolved over centuries. It didn't just survive those conditions, it actually kind of learned to use them.
Use them? How?
Well, the intense heat and lack of water naturally concentrate the sugars and acids in the grapes.
Okay.
And those big temperature shifts, especially if the vineyards are a bit higher up, they actually slow down the ripening. That gives the grape more time to develop more complex aromas. It's like natural selection playing out right there in the vineyard.
So this grape we might have just written off as simple is actually like a master survivor, a master adapter.
Pretty much.
And it sounds like things are changing now, too. The sources point to this really interesting shift, moving away from just quantity,
Right.
towards trying to express the terroir, the land itself, through, well, better farming and winemaking. What kinds of changes are we actually seeing?
Exactly that. Historically, yeah, it was about yield. But now, in certain, let's say, specific areas of Castilla-La Mancha, you've got producers who are really carefully picking vineyard sites. Terroirs, exactly. Places they think can give higher quality Airén. They're playing with different ways to prune the vines, managing the leaves, deciding exactly when to harvest, all to coax out that potential that was maybe hidden before.
That's really exciting. It suggests we might start seeing a completely different side of Airén. And it's not just one trick pony, is it? Our sources mention it's pretty versatile, can make those light, fresh whites.
Yeah, perfect for a hot day.
But also potentially some barrel-aged versions. What does oak do for Airén?
That versatility is definitely part of its modern story. Those crisp, unoaked styles. They show off its natural acidity, its subtle fruit.
Okay.
But aging it in oak, even for a short time, can add layers. You get a richer feel in the mouth, maybe some hints of vanilla or spice, a bit more structure. It just shows, well, a bigger ambition for the grape.
Now, Castilla-La Mancha, that really is ground zero for Airén, isn't it? It's like its spiritual home.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You simply can't talk Airén without talking Castilla-La Mancha. And within that huge region, you've got several key DOPs, denominations of origin, that are really shaping its quality and reputation now. La Mancha DOP, it's the biggest in Spain. It's central.
It's huge, yeah.
And what's interesting is their rules specifically allow for barrel-aged Airén and other styles too, like sparkling, even late-harvest sweet wines. That tells you they're committed to exploring its full range, not just basic table wine.
And then just south of there, there's Valdepeñas, DRP. They seem big on Airén too, but maybe with more focus on what? Preserving its regional character? Typicity?
That's a good way to put it. They also allow oak aging, but yeah, Valdepeñas Airén is often noted for this lovely, freshness, bright fruit, sometimes even a kind of mineral edge.
Okay, so what causes those differences then? If they're both in Castilla-La Mancha using the same grape, why the slight difference between La Mancha and Valdepeñas Airén?
That's a great question. It really comes down to those subtle variations. Different pockets within the larger region will have slightly different soil makeups, different microclimates, maybe slightly different winemaking traditions that have developed. Valdepeñas, for instance, has some areas with soil types that might explain that minerality people talk about.
Okay.
It just shows how even within one big region, tiny differences in terroir can create distinct personalities in the wine. And it's not just those two big ones. Sources also mention places like Mantuela, Mentrida, Ribera del Guadiana,
Right.
where Airén might be more of a supporting player in blends, but still adding its character to the local white wines.
So Airén is this kind of common thread, but each place is weaving it into its own unique pattern of flavors. Now, it seems like it's mainly found in this central part of Spain. Why isn't it a bigger deal elsewhere, like, say, near Madrid? The sources mention Vinos de Madrid.
Yeah, historically, it really comes down to economics and climate matching. Arén's ability to produce high yields made it super attractive for the large-scale needs of Castilla-La Mancha. Other regions, they might have had different climates, not quite as suited, or maybe a longer history focusing on other grapes, so there wasn't the same push to plant Airén everywhere. It pops up here and there, sure, but it's not dominant outside its main home base.
Okay, right. So we've really dug into Airén, uncovered its pretty surprising story and its potential. But like we said, Spanish wine is just this huge, diverse world.
Huge.
Let's take that whirlwind tour we talked about, explore some other fascinating regions and grapes. How about we head way down south?
Andalusia.
Andalusia. Yeah, instantly you think sherry, right?
Of course.
But there's so much more happening. Take Montilla Morila's Dio, it's just north of Malaga. They use some of the same key grapes as Jerez Pedro Ximénez, Palomino Fino, even the Solera aging system.
Similar, though.
Similar, but the terroir is different. It's warmer, drier inland. And this leads to something really remarkable. Their Pedro Ximénez grapes can get incredibly ripe, naturally reaching super high sugar levels. Often they don't even need to fortify the sweet wines. Wow, naturally sweet without adding alcohol. That's amazing.
It's a direct result of their specific environment. Really shows the power of terroir.
Definitely. And then you mentioned Sierras de Malaga and Serranía de Ronda do. These are newer, up-and-coming mountain regions.
Yeah, nestled in the mountains. Sources say they have really diverse terroir and just tons of potential for high-quality reds and whites.
What makes mountain terroir like that so special?
Well, you get this patchwork effect, right? Different altitudes, different directions the slopes face, different soils.
Okay.
It just means you can successfully grow a much wider range of grapes compared to the hotter coastal plains. So you might get elegant, fresh whites from higher ups, and then more structured, complex reds from warmer shelter spots. But across the whole region, as the sources point out, that generally hot, dry Andalusian climate is key for getting good ripeness, concentrated flavors.
And look, we can't talk Andalusia without really focusing on Palomino, the king of Jerez.
Undisputed.
Our materials describe it as like a relatively neutral grape on its own.
Yeah, a bit of a blank canvas, you could say.
But it just transforms through those unique Jerez aging methods. The floor, that weird yeast layer.
Fascinating stuff, the floor.
And then oxidative aging. And those albariza soils, that white chalky soil, that's crucial, right? What's the deal with the soil?
Absolutely key.
Sure.
Albariza soil is rich in calcium carbonate, and it acts like a sponge. It soaks up the winter rain, which is vital in the dry summer, and then slowly releases that moisture back to the vines. Helps keep them going. Palomino loves it. And then aging under flora in those humid cellars, that creates the unique, fresh, sometimes salty character of Fino and Manzanilla. But if the flora dies off, or they decide to age it oxidatively,
Right.
then you get those richer, nutty caramel notes developing into Amontillado and Olorosos. It's an amazing transformation, driven by both the place and the process.
It's like Palomino is this incredible chameleon, just adapting completely to how it's aged in Jerez. And it's good to hear that beyond the amazing fortified wines, Andalusia is also focusing more on quality still wines now. Reds, whites, rosés. What kind of styles are emerging?
You're seeing producers getting really smart about matching varieties to specific microclimates. They're aiming for freshness and aromatic punch in the whites and maybe exploring lighter-bodied, fruit-forward reds that show the warmth without being, heavy or jammy. There's a real buzz of innovation alongside those deep sherry traditions.
Okay, great. Let's travel north now, up to Castilla y León. This region feels like it's especially famous for its powerful red wines. What gives them that intensity?
Yeah, the reds from Castilla y León, especially from Ribera del Duero, mostly Tempranillo, or Tinta Fina as they call it there.
Tinta Fina, right?
They get that power from the high altitude, and the big diurnal shifts those large swings between hot daytime and cool nighttime temperatures.
Ah, the temperature swings again.
Exactly. It leads to grapes with thicker skins, which means more color, more tannin, and these really intense aromas of dark fruit, spice, and often quite a bit of influence from oak aging. They're definitely wines built for structure, wines that can age.
But it's not just the big reds, is it? Our sources highlight the white wines too, mentioning their elegance and freshness, specifically Rueda and Bierzo.
Right.
Rueda seems almost synonymous with Verdejo. That grape with the herbaceous, slightly tropical notes, so refreshing. What is it about Rueda that Verdejo likes so much?
It seems to be that combination of gravelly soils and the continental climate, again, with those temperature differences.
Yeah.
It helps keep the grape's natural acidity high
Okay.
and develops those signature green notes like fennel, maybe a hint of bitterness alongside the fruit. It's really quite unique. And then you hop over to Bierzo, and Godello is the star white grape there.
Godello.
Totally different profile.
Mm.
More complex, maybe stone fruit, floral hints, a definite mineral streak, and often this lovely, almost slightly oily texture in the mouth.
What gives it that richness, that texture in Bierzo?
It's likely a combination of the soils there, often more slate and granite, and perhaps specific winemaking choices, like aging on the lees, which can build texture.
Sounds like a fantastic region for wine lovers to explore. And our materials even mention enoturism, the Ribera del Duero and Rueda wine routes, and some pretty famous names: Protos, Vega Sicilia, Yalera, Castilla-La Mancha, Prada Atope.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a region that really embraces its wine culture.
Clearly.
Those routes offer amazing chances to see everything, vineyard to bottle. And it's worth noting, the region is really focusing more and more on sustainability. Lots of wineries are implementing greener practices, recognizing how important that is for the future.
That sustainability focus is so vital everywhere now. Okay, let's jump east. Over to Catalunya, we know it's Cava Central.
The heartland.
But it sounds like there's a whole treasure chest of other interesting native grapes there too, besides the main Cava trio. What are some of these sort of hidden gems?
Yeah, beyond Macabeo, Zarolo, and Perolado, the pillars of Cava Catalunya, has this fantastic range of indigenous grapes for still wines. You've got Monastrell, giving dark fruit and spice.
Okay.
Trepat, with its delicate red fruit notes, often used in Rosé Cava too. Picpol, which is quite aromatic.
Mm-hmm.
Sumol, which can be earthy. Garnacha Blanca, floral and maybe a bit honeyed. And the really distinctive Malvasia de Sitges, known for its elegant perfume. It's like a playground for winemakers looking beyond bubbles.
Wow, it's like a whole secret world of Catalan wine waiting. And speaking of Cava, the sources mention that while Penedès is the main hub,
Definitely.
other regions like Aragon and even Rioja chip in. What grapes do they typically use for Cava there?
That's right. In Aragon, particularly around Cariñena, they often use Macabeo for their Cava base, brings that freshness. Rioja also makes some Cava, usually using Viura, which is just another name for Macabeo.
Ah, Viura is Macabeo, okay.
And sometimes they add Malvasia, which can give it a slightly richer aromatic edge. It shows the Cava DO isn't just one small spot.
And it's really interesting to read about the rise of smaller Cava producers, the ones focusing on terroir, organic, or biodynamic farming. Aiming for freshness, elegance, complexity seems like a real evolution happened.
Oh, definitely. That movement towards smaller, quality-driven producers is bringing this great new energy to Cava. They're often doing single vineyard Cavas, really showing off their specific piece of land, pushing the boundaries of finesse and depth. And, with the whole range of styles, from bone-dry brute nature to the sweeter dolce, there really is a Cava for pretty much any food or occasion.
Okay, next stop. Extremadura. This region seems to be stepping up, making a name for itself with both reds and whites. What are their key players, grape-wise?
Extremadura is definitely one to watch. On the red side, Tempranillo, they often call it Sensible, or Tinto Fino there is the main grape, makes full-bodied wines, often good for aging.
Sensible, okay.
But you're also seeing more Garnacha. And the local Bobel grape is gaining traction too. It can make really deeply colored, structured reds.
Yeah.
For whites, Cayetana Blanca is kind of their signature grape-fresh aromatic wines. But they also grow Macabeo, Parellada, Verdejo, even some international grapes like Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. So it's a mix of local tradition and trying new things.
Sounds like a region finding its voice, balancing heritage and innovation. And the materials mention a strong push for sustainable practices there too, which is great to see. Plus some handy tasting tips like serving temps.
Yeah, that sustainability commitment is crucial for their long-term success. And those simple tips, chilling whites, slightly cooling lighter reds, letting fuller reds warm up a bit, they really do make a difference in how you perceive the aromas and flavors. Simple but effective.
Okay, let's head northwest now to Galicia, land of amazing seafood
Of the best.
and those incredibly aromatic white wines. What is it about Galicia that produces such distinctive whites?
It's that Atlantic influence. Moderate temperatures, plenty of rain, combined with diverse soils, often granite and schist. It's just perfect for aromatic, vibrant white grapes. Within Dio Ribero, you even have subregions with different characters. Avia, on granite, gives really intense aromatics. Minho is more mixed, good for elegant whites and some fruity reds. And the Sill area, on schist soils, brings this distinct minerality and complexity.
And the grapes themselves are just fantastic. Drake's Dora, the most planted in Ribero, apparently floral, fruity. Godello giving structure and citrus. The famous Albarino with that citrus, floral, almost salty tang.
That unmistakable salty note, yeah.
And Lorero adding aromatic herbal notes. What a lineup.
Each one brings something unique to the party in Ribero. It makes for a really diverse and exciting range of whites. And beyond Ribero, Dio Monterrey is flagged as a region with huge potential, still kind of under the radar. And of course, you can't beat pairing those crisp aromatic whites with the local seafood. It's just harmony.
Oh yeah, that Albarino and seafood combo is legendary for a reason. Now let's talk about a grape that's planted worldwide, but has a massive presence in Spain. Garnacha.
Ah, Garnacha. Or Grenache, as many know it.
Right. What are some of its different faces across Spain?
Garnacha is just brilliant at showing terroir. In Aragon, where it likely originated, it makes these full-bodied aromatic reds, dark fruit, spice, minerality. Go to Navarra, and it's the star of their vibrant rosés, all red berries and flowers.
Love Navarra rosés.
In Rioja, it's often blended with Tempranillo, adding body and juiciness. And then you get to Priorat, grown on those unique Alicarella slate soils.
Licorella, right.
And it becomes incredibly intense, concentrated, powerful mineral and spice notes. It's amazing how different it can be.
One grape, so many personalities depending on where it grows. And it sounds super versatile with food, too, from hearty Mediterranean stuff to even spicy Asian dishes.
Absolutely. Its adaptability, its ability to reflect the land, that's why it's so valued and widely planted in Spain.
Okay, let's take a little trip now out to the Spanish islands, the Canaries and the Balearics. Those volcanic and Mediterranean settings must create some really unique wines.
Oh, absolutely unique. The Canary Islands, you've got dramatic volcanic landscapes, often very old vines that were never hit by phylloxera.
Wow, ungrafted.
Yeah, ungrafted vines, and a load of fascinating local grapes. Listan Blanco, which is actually Palomino,
Oh.
Listan Negro, Tintilla, Malvasia volcanica. The whites often have this real flinty mineral edge. The reds can be incredibly aromatic, and they even make some intriguing sweet wines. And they have unique traditions, like the Trenzado vine training, where they braid the vines. Our sources mentioned Frontero Blanco Seco from El Hierro is a great example of that vibrant, citrusy mineral style.
Volcanic wines. Like you can almost
Yeah.
taste the geology.
Yeah.
And then the Balearics, Mallorca, Menorca, Ibiza, more classic Mediterranean climate, sea breezes.
Right. A mix of local grapes there, too. Calais, Montenegro Mall, which is also called Prensel,
Also blanc, okay.
alongside some international varieties. They produce wines with a real Mediterranean feel, elegant reds, fresh whites, lovely rosés that just taste like sunshine in the sea. Both archipelagos offer something really different and compelling if you're looking for wines off the beaten track.
Definitely worth seeking out. We touched on Jerez earlier, but it's just such a singular place. Maybe we should give it a slightly deeper look. What really sets it apart?
Jerez is, well, Jerez is, it's unique. That specific microclimate, the Albariza soils we talked about, and crucially, the sherry winemaking processes, especially the Solera system of fractional blending.
The Solera, right.
All that creates its character.
Yeah.
And then the sheer variety of styles, mostly from Palomino, except for the sweet Pedro Ximénez, PX, and Moscatel. You go from bone-dry Fino and Manzanilla, aged in a flor,
Biologically aged.
to Amontillado, which starts under flor, then ages oxidatively. Oloroso, purely oxidative aging, the rare, mysterious Palo Cortado, and those incredibly rich, sweet PX and Moscatel wines. There's genuinely a sherry for almost any food or mood, and people often underestimate how well they pair with non-Spanish food, too.
It really is a whole universe of wine in one small corner of Spain. Okay, let's circle back to La Mancha, home of our surprise grape, Airén. It sounds like there's more going on there soil-wise than just flat
Yeah,
plains.
it's vast and relatively flat, true,
Well,
but there's soil diversity. The most common is argil, calcareous clay, and limestone mix. Great for holding water, which is vital there, and it helps keep acidity in the wines.
okay.
But you also find sandier patches, loamy soils, which tend to give lighter wines. And it's interesting, winemakers are experimenting more now, not just stainless steel tanks or oak barrels, but things like concrete eggs, amphorae,
Yeah.
trying to get different textures and expressions. And our sources also highlight that La Mancha is really trying to build its enotourism now, sharing their culture, their food, their sustainable efforts.
So La Mancha's evolving too, looking beyond just bulk, building a visitor experience, trying new techniques. That's really positive. Now, our materials connect Macabeo or Viura with Airén. What's the link? Are they related?
It's interesting, they're definitely distinct grapes, not directly related in that sense, but they do share some traits. Like Airén, Macabeo Viura is quite resistant to oxidation.
Ah, okay.
That makes it really useful for making white wines meant to age, especially white Rioja, and also is a key part of the Cava blend. Usually has good balanced acidity. You have to handle it gently when pressing to keep its delicate fruit. And again, terroir is huge. Viura grown in the cooler, Atlantic climate of Rioja tastes different from Viura grown in the warmer Mediterranean climate of Catalonia. Soil matters too. It shows how the same grape expresses itself differently based on where it is.
So not the same grape, but some similar uses and characteristics. And it's fascinating how things like the aging vessel, even the glass you use, can shape the experience. Sounds like Macabeo, like lots of grapes, faces challenges, climate change, competition. But there's also R&D happening.
Exactly. That constant work on precision viticulture, using tech in the vineyard and innovative winemaking, is crucial for the future of Macabeo and other Spanish whites in a changing world.
Okay, let's switch to Mencia. This is a red grape getting a lot more attention lately, especially from the Valdeorras region in Galicia. What's special about Mencia from there?
Valdeorras is really emerging as a top spot for Mencia, yeah. The reds from there often have this wonderful elegance combined with complexity. You get fresh red and dark fruit, maybe some spice, often a really distinct mineral note from the soils.
Minerality again.
Yeah, and the tannins are usually quite fine, well integrated with good acidity, give them aging potential. And they make lovely Mencia rosés, too bright, fruity, great with food. The wineries mentioned, Delabad, Fuentes del Sil, they're great examples of the quality coming out of Valdeorras now.
Sounds like a grape and a place definitely worth looking for. Now, Monastrell, also known as Mourvedre in France. This one loves the heat, right? What's it like in Spain?
Monastrell absolutely thrives in the sun. Needs a long, warm season to ripen fully. It typically has these medium-sized, fairly compact bunches. That slow ripening is key. It builds concentration, softens tannins, develops complex flavors.
Yeah.
In Spain, especially in places like Yecla, Jumilla, Alicante down south, it makes these full-bodied reds great for aging. Lots of dark fruit, spice, sometimes earthy or even slightly gamey notes develop with time and oak. They also make really deeply colored, flavorful rosés from it. It's a powerhouse grape, great with grilled meats, games, stews. The rosés handle lighter stuff, paella, even some Asian dishes. Significant in Spain and also key in France's southern Rhone.
A real sun-loving grape, delivering power and complexity. Let's revisit Palomino one last time, the heart of sherry. We've mentioned it, but the sources really stress its fundamental role.
It really is the soul of Jerez and Manzanilla. Its history in Andalusia goes way back, and it's perfectly adapted to that unique terroir, the sun, the sea breeze, the Albariza soil. And like we said, its relative neutrality is actually its strength. It lets those amazing aging processes, flora, oxidation, the Solera system, completely define the final wine style.
Right.
From Fino and Manzanilla's biological character to Amontillato's journey from bio to oxidative, Oloroso's pure oxidation, the elusive Palo Cortado, and then the sweet PX and Moscatel. It's all built on Palomino's foundation, transformed by time and technique. The sources mention some classics like Innocente Fino, Tio Diego Amontillado, benchmarks for those styles.
It's just incredible how tradition and technique can elevate a grape like that. Okay, Penede's back to the heart of Cava country. Sounds like a place where tradition and innovation really live side by side.
Pinedes has this incredibly long winemaking history going way back.
Yeah.
And yes, it's the engine room for Cava. The local Xarel-Elo grape is particularly important there for Cava's quality and character.
Xarel-Elo, right.
They have deep roots in traditional farming, but there's also this vibrant, innovative spirit. Producers are always experimenting. And beyond Cava, Paredes makes a whole range of still reds and whites, plus some lovely sweet and fortified wines too, often highlighting local grapes.
So Cava might be its calling card, but Penedès clearly has a much wider wine identity. Now, Priorat, known for that dramatic landscape and those super intense reds, what makes Priorat wine so powerful?
It's all about those incredibly steep, terraced vineyards planted on that unique slate soil, the Lucarella. It's poor soil, rocky, really stresses the vines. That means very low yields, but the grapes you get are packed with flavor. The main grapes are Garnacha and Carignana. They work together beautifully. Garnacha brings the rich fruit and spice. Carignana gives structure, acidity, darker notes. They often blend in small amounts of other grapes like Cabernet, Merlot, Syrah for extra complexity. But it's really that tough environment and the unique soil that creates wines with such amazing concentration and minerality.
It sounds like the landscape itself is bottled in those wines. Okay, let's head to Rioja, probably Spain's most famous wine region internationally. The sources mention the tourism there goes beyond just wineries, with towns like Logroño and Haro offering culture too.
Rioja has done a fantastic job with wine tourism. They understand the connection between their great wines, the beautiful region, and the local culture and food.
Yeah.
Towns like Logroño, the capital, and Haro, with its famous station district full of historic wineries, offer so much. Great food scene too. Perfect for pairing with Rioja wines. It's really a complete wine destination.
And Tempranillo is king in Rioja, of course. It sounds like the grape and the wines really change quite a bit as they age. How do they evolve?
Young Tempranillo in Rioja often shows bright red fruits, cherry, maybe some plum, often with vanilla notes from the oak. But as it ages in barrel and bottle, those fresh fruit notes turn into more complex, tertiary aromas, think leather, tobacco, dried figs, spice. The tannins, which might be firm when young, soften and smooth out. The different classifications, Crianza, Reserva, Gran Reserva, basically tell you how long it's been aged, influencing that evolution. It's different from, say, Ribera del Duero, where the same grape, Pinto Fino, often starts out more concentrated, darker fruited, maybe more tannic, due to the more extreme climate, needing perhaps even longer aging.
So Tempranillo is a real shapeshifter, adapting to place and process. Let's go east now to Valencia. Sounds like a region really championing its own local grapes.
Duo Valencia itself is quite diverse: whites, reds, rosé, sweet wines. But inland, you have Duo Hurricana, and that's the real home of the Bobel grape.
Global, right.
Makes deeply colored, structured reds, but also really vibrant rosos. Then further south, Dio Alicante is strong on Monastrell for powerful reds, and also traditional sweet wines like Fondillon, this unique oxidative style. All these areas have rules to ensure quality, and they're actively promoting their local grapes like Bobal and Garnacha. Their future seems focused on, well, valuing that heritage, innovating sustainability, and dealing with climate change. And like everywhere in Spain, great food pairings with the local wines.
Sounds like Valencia has a strong sense of identity and a plan for the future. Finally, let's loop back to Viura, Macabeo again and its amazing adaptability. What does that tell us about how grapes and terroir interact?
Viura's versatility is a fantastic example of how a grape's basic nature gets shaped by where it's grown. You take Viura from the cooler, Atlantic-influenced Rioja, great for elegant whites, key for Cava, then Viura from the warmer Mediterranean side in Catalunya, also crucial for Cava, but maybe a slightly different feel. The soil, the altitude, how the vines are farmed, it all impacts acidity, fruit character, structure. The real skill of the grower and the winemaker is understanding their specific terroir, its potential, and then guiding everything from pruning in the vineyard to fermentation temperature, maybe skin contact, choice of aging vessel in the cellar to let that sense of place shine through. Even with just one grape, terroir gives you this amazing spectrum from young and zesty to complex and oak-aged to sparkling Cava to those unique aged Rioja whites.
Understanding that interaction is really kind of the magic of wine, isn't it?
Wow, that was quite a journey, an incredible tour through the sheer diversity and fascination of Spanish wine, from that surprise about Airén right at the start to the unique island wines, the icons like Rioja and Jerez. It's so clear Spain offers way more depth and complexity than just the few famous names. Absolutely. I think the main takeaway really is that astonishing diversity, the range of native grapes, the patchwork of really distinct terroirs. It all combines to offer these incredibly compelling, often surprising alternatives to the more globally common grapes.
And that was really our mission today, wasn't it? To hopefully give you, our listener, a richer feel for this amazing wine landscape and maybe spark a bit of curiosity to explore it more yourself.
Yeah, just think about it, that deep connection between history, the land itself, and human skill that's captured in every single bottle of Spanish wine. Think about all the undiscovered gems, the lesser-known regions or grapes that are still out there waiting. Maybe seek one out next time you're looking for a bottle. You might be surprised.